Welcome to Data Center Dialogues. My name is Suyin Arts and I'm your host of this series of deep dives into the world of data centers. In this episode, I will host the real IT infrastructure debate. Because a question you will probably ask yourself at some point is, am I set for the coming years with my IT infrastructure? In the growing data market, it's often an iterative process. Cloud, on-premises, or hybrid. And to have this debate, I have two specialists with me in the studio. Tiziano Durante is Microsoft Cloud Region Lead for Western Europe. And his mission has evolved not only to align customer demand with cloud capabilities, but also to bridge connections with government and community stakeholders. Also have Koen Van Loo, Chief IT and Digital Officer for Group S, and I'm very sure that he will bring the practical CIO experience from a service-driven organization. Welcome, gentlemen. Very
Hello.
happy
Hi.
To have both of you here with me. And let me start off with a question about decision-making. I believe that making decisions is never easy. And I would even say that it's difficult, no matter what industry you're in, what role you have, what function you have, and even no matter what responsibility you have in your job, making decisions is never that easy. Tiziano, if you have to prioritize a decision, how would you decide to choose between cloud, on-premise, or hybrid setups in a way that you're also sure that you make the best foundations for the future?
Wow. So thanks for hosting me, first of all. So it's a quite complex question. I have many potential answers I can give you. For sure, as Microsoft, we come from the on-prem. We were a Windows and Office company, no? Now we run the cloud, maybe one of the biggest cloud footprint worldwide. And we are the hybrid company because we are providing a lot of services that are able to span between the two. So as Microsoft, we can provide all these three options, and you should keep in consideration that our mission is to empower people and organizations to decide, no? So it's never Microsoft deciding what a customer should do, but we should empower the customer to have all the options in the best level possible. The answer to your question is that what I learned from many consultancy company, it depends. It depends on the target you have. It depends on what you want to reach. If you are fighting against obsolescence, if you are working on saving money, if you are working on improving performance, capacity, or security, all these three choices, on-prem, hybrid, or full cloud, can be potentially good ones. What I see is that for sure we started from the on-prem. There's been a lot of rush to the cloud, and maybe the hybrid will be the right balance. Mm-hmm. Then hybrid may be 10-90 or 90-10. So the hybrid means that some workload is on-prem, some is on the cloud. So the game will be being able to choose which are the correct one to be on-prem and which are the correct one to be on the cloud.
Mm-hmm. And do you see that being a challenge for companies everywhere in the world, or is it a little bit depending what region you're on?
No, it's a common challenge. As I told you before, it depending on the target you have, on the reason why you are thinking about this initiative. But it's quite common one. And we see also customer adding another option to this tree, which is also the multi-cloud or the poly-cloud, as I love to say, because customers are also looking to more than one only cloud platform. No? So it's not only about being on-prem, being hybrid, being on the cloud, but also which cloud or how many clouds. There are clouds like ours, which are, let me say, general purpose, providing a lot of services, but there are also specialized cloud providing software as a service solution or security platform. So this is another topic I would add.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Koen, Do you agree with what Tiziano is sharing with us? And how did you manage to make a good decision for your company?
I'm certainly agree. I do certainly agree with Luciano. That's what we do as well. We are looking to the cloud. We are looking to on-premise, and we, of course, we are looking on hybrid solutions. Traditionally, we were very much on-premise. Everything was on-premise, and last months, last years, we are looking much more to the cloud. But we always do the business case exercise, and then we look, is it a good solution to go to the cloud, or should we say stay on site? And in some cases we think it's cheaper to keep it on site. Often we need, for instance, scalability or elasticity, and then we choose for the cloud. Also, when we need, for instance, to keep up with new functionalities, because if you're in the cloud, it's much easier to keep up with the new functionality. Then we choose often for the cloud.
Depends on what you need.
Yeah, and I certainly agree as well. Sometimes you just don't have an option to choose for the cloud, because if you want a certain solution, you sometimes obliged to choose for the cloud.
Sometimes the opposite, because we have customers that cannot move everything to the cloud. If you think about banks, they have the mainframe. It cannot run on the cloud. No, there are still many technical capabilities that cannot be moved. There are capabilities you cannot move also from a financial point of view, because if you buy, let me say, hardware appliance, spending a lot of money, and maybe you have a 10 years amortization plan, you will not put in the trash after 2 years. No?
Of course.
But sometimes you need to probably dare to make bold decisions to say, okay, we maybe bought certain material, we were thinking of using it 10 years, but then
depends on the business problem you have.
And then
but sometimes, for instance, and I certainly agree as well there. Certainly, sometimes you have the infrastructure and you have the management capacity, and then to add some functionality, it's much cheaper to do it on premise than to move it into the cloud.
Maybe.
And it means a new infrastructure. You have to create new competences, and so it's not always easy to move to the cloud as well. So it really depends on the business case.
People thought that the IT architect role was going to disappear with the cloud.
Yeah.
It's not at all, because you have to do all this consideration, and you have to design architectures that are spanning cloud, on-prem,
and they have
more on-prem
and
more cloud.
They need to know both roles.
Absolutely.
Would you then even say it becomes much more complicated than, let's say, 10 years ago?
It's certainly more complicated. The world is becoming more complicated, so you have a lot more options to choose from. So if you have more options, it becomes more complicated to make the right choice. But of course, there are also solutions to make it easy. If you have chosen for instance on premise, and on a certain moment you want to go to the cloud, to make it easier to go to the cloud. And for instance, if you industrialize your infrastructure, it's a lot easier to move it to the cloud than to start it up all from.
There is another trend we see for customers willing to keep workloads on-prem, or let me say also in a hybrid world, the part you are keeping on-prem, they are trying to offload the management, the security management for this workloads. No, so you keep on-prem your application, your data. Okay, you manage that one, but maybe you get updates, you get fixes, you get security patches, you get the antivirus, anti-malware, or CM infrastructure. Maybe you can get these capabilities from the cloud, and you can just focus your on-prem on the core of your business need, which is the application and the data. This is a trend we see. So you can stay on-prem and leverage all the management and operation and security framework maybe from the cloud.
And you need to find good partners then to help you do this, or Koen?
of course, it's always a challenge. Which partner can provide which service? There's a lot of partners, and I was in a meeting even today where we had a discussion, and that partner can provide this service, but we want also to limit the number of partners. So we are also looking for partners that can cover a lot of services. So it's always a challenge, and it's evolving very fast. So you need to have partners that can
Evolve
keep up
with
with
you.
that
Mhm.
evolution as well.
Mhm.
Um,
And probably there are mistakes that are made. Do you sometimes see, Tiziano, mistakes come back where you say, okay, apparently companies should talk more with each other not to make the same mistakes? Or is it very
You know,
specific depending on the
I don't like
industry?
speaking about mistakes because we are all trying to do our best, let me
Uh-huh.
say, no?
Uh-huh.
But sometimes you feel that some decision is a mistake afterwards, but also because at the time of the decision, maybe some capabilities was not available yet, no? So sometimes you see companies saying, wow, if I would have waited 2 years,
True.
would have been much easier, no? One of the biggest trend I saw going on and now going back is the multi-cloud story, no? Because many companies were thinking about using more cloud providers, which is, let me say, a good decision. It was not a good decision to have more clouds doing the same job. While it was a good decision specializing the cloud you are using. So I'm going to have virtual machines there, but I'm going to get the identity and security platform from that cloud, but covering all the clouds I'm using. And then I'm going to have the data platform on that other cloud. This is a different way to use more clouds to get the best from each one and not duplicating, because we saw customers implementing 3 different identity platforms, then having to protect 3 different identities, and then having to support people logging in from mobile or desktop from 3 different accounts. That's not the most optimized way. You are tripling everything.
Is that something that I see you
Well,
nodding? I think
yeah,
you...
we are too small to choose multi-cloud, so we
Okay.
explicitly choose one cloud, the Microsoft clouds.
Luckily.
If
If not, I need to come and sit in between you. It's okay. Okay. You can stay together.
And we know that means a certain lock-in. We know that's also a danger because Microsoft has a lot of power on us at the moment, but it allows us as well to develop our competences because if we don't have a lot of engineers, so they have to manage it, and we want to specialize them and to really know the environment they are working in. So that's why we are choosing for one technology stack. But of course, as I said, you don't choose always. So often you need a component that's in another cloud as well, but there we are not specialized in. So we do have some little components from other clouds, but we really choose for the main technology to implement Microsoft.
And do you have like certain lessons learned by now from the hybrid adoption that you did?
Well, from the hybrid adoption, the business case thinking, that's a lesson we've learned. I've had the cloud first strategy before, and there you see that sometimes it doesn't work very well. It can become very costly if you don't manage it well. So with the business case thinking, I'm more confident that we choose the right solution for the right problem. And another thing is that you have to think about it before. Some people just start with the cloud without thinking before, and we've talked about architecture,
planning,
architecture planning. You should know
Sometimes
how
it
do
takes
I
time
want
and
to
money,
implement cloud, and then again it evolves very fast, and there's always new stuff that is coming, and that is telling you, oh, maybe you should have done it in
Differently.
another way
Mhm.
before. So
But you really have to have that seat at the table, that as a CIO, talking to the business on a constant basis.
yeah.
Has this
we-
been like this for the whole of your career, that as a CIO they did
Oh
not
no,
come? No.
I think the digital role in the companies is becoming more and more important, and certainly in service companies like ours, it's very important that you have your voice on the table, and yeah, it's really collaboration between business and the digital. But of course, we spend a lot of money in the company, so we have to interact really well with our
Mhm.
business peers.
Mhm. I'd like to ask you about, Tiziano, about data sovereignty. Do you think if we talk about that we are only talking about residency?
No, it's two related but very different topics. Residency, let me say, it's a simple one because it's about having your data where you want your data to be, typically in country or in the European Union, or there are other rules for other countries all over the world, for sure. You know that more than 130 countries worldwide have a law or a regulation about residency. 130. And if I'm not wrong, in the world there are 220 countries, so it's more than 50%. So including every country in Europe, including Belgium, including Italy. So there are regulations stating that data should be inside the European Union, but then there are companies and type of data or type of application that must be in country. And that's about residency. Sovereignty is a completely different topic. Sovereignty is about being sure that nobody can get access to your data, not only from a, let me say, user access point of view, but also from an operational point of view, security point of view. You must be sure that a government cannot force the cloud provider, to make an example, very easy one, to provide them your data sitting on the cloud, no? Especially when you think that cloud providers are US companies, because if you think of the biggest 3-4 cloud providers are US company, typically European companies are asking me, how can you assure me that if they ask to get access to my data, because you are under their regulation, it would not happen. And this is about sovereignty. So meaning that there are for sure legal action you can take. And in our case, we are challenging and pushing back all these requests and rerouting these requests to the final customer. So we tell to the government, you can ask directly to the end customer. From a technical point of view, we don't have backdoors. And this is audited and certified. So there is no way, a technical way in our cloud to create a backdoor. The only way we have is to create a username and a password with the right access to your application and to your data. So it's something we cannot do without your consent and your knowledge somehow. For sure, there are cases where you are forced, because to give you another example, if they are inquiring for terrorism, and they are, let me say, investigating on a customer, I cannot tell the customer you've been investigating for terrorism. In that case, I'm forced to provide this data. So what companies and cloud providers are doing is to develop technologies that prevent the cloud provider to get access, also to create accounts, etc., even in case they get forced.
Okay.
In this case, some cloud provider is developing sovereign cloud solution, so meaning a cloud island separated from the rest of the cloud and managed by a local provider. No? We are doing in France and in Germany, other competitors are doing something similar. That's, let me say, for sure the most secure way, because it's operated by a company that is not under the US legislation. But from the other side, you don't get the full cloud potential because it's an island, so the capacity is limited. Also, the innovation, you don't get updates. You can get it at the same speed. We develop something different. We develop a solution based on confidential computing and customer-owned encryption keys, so allowing the data to be encrypted with a encryption key owned by the customer when the data is on the storage, on the wire, and also in memory and in the CPU. And this is going to be our new standard. In Belgium too, we are going to provide these capabilities to the Belgium region. We are going to open this year too. And this is a very good way to get the potential of the cloud because it's still public cloud, but you can protect application and data with this technology to get sovereignty. And this is about digital sovereignty, but if you want to go to the operational sovereignty, the sovereign cloud is the only one to do so. It's a
I have
hard
a question.
story.
Will it work for all workloads? Because you for specific workloads, a specific your own application, I can imagine that it's working. But everybody is on MS365 at the moment. Will it work?
It
for
will.
that? Yeah.
It will. For sure, we started from confidential VMs. We are moving to confidential enclaves, so related to containerization or modern application. We are already working on confidential computing for Fabric, so for the data platform. We will be working for M365. We already are, but I cannot say it, but we already are. I think in 10 years we will not be speaking anymore about confidential computing because it will be the new normal.
Okay.
Everything. It should be.
You remember the SSL encryption?
Indeed,
10 years ago, it was an option. Now we don't know anymore what it is because it's there.
No, I
You
agree.
agree?
It's a commodity.
I agree. I think it's really a must because otherwise it's too complex for the companies to know that should be in a sovereign cloud or that shouldn't be in a sovereign cloud.
But it's a journey. It will take time.
It's a journey
And
indeed.
money.
Money, yeah.
It will become more expensive.
No, not more expensive, but it's an investment because it's different hardware.
Mhm.
From our point of view, it's a completely new generation of hardware.
Okay.
You need to provide CPUs and GPUs to confidential computing capable. You cannot use the same hardware you use now. So there will be a kind of
And could you
renovation.
could you say what time frame you think this will
Confidential
be?
computing VMs and enclaves are already available today. We are deploying into our regions. We have something like 70 regions worldwide, so it's a huge job. The new regions will start with this new capability as an option because a lot of customers are asking to use confidential computing only for a set of application or data. It's not more expensive, but it's more complex for sure.
More complex, and it limits also functionality. I think at the moment.
I'm not so technician.
What feeling do you have that you?
Well, I think
limits?
it's a very hot topic because I'm a member of a lot of professional societies, and it's everywhere on the table. But everybody is looking into it. Everybody thinks we should do something about it. But everybody is also saying, well, it can't make the costs go up because
who's going to pay for it?
The budgets are already very limited. But everybody is really afraid about what's happening in America. Before we say, okay, there's a link with America, so nothing can happen to our friends. But in last month we have seen that a lot of things can happen. So everybody is asking questions. So the statement of last week from Microsoft was a very good one, I think. But even then, it doesn't cover everything, I think.
100% coverage does not exist. Zero risk doesn't exist.
Would be boring, maybe.
I don't know. But many companies would lose their job.
yeah, of course.
But no, for sure we made this announcement because this is not only technical. This is also about regulation and legal aspects, so contractual aspects, etc.
So it's important to communicate about them.
Absolutely. And we took some decision, and there is an announcement from Brad Smith in Brussels 1 week ago related to the way that we are changing the organization in Microsoft to have more and more legal entities and legal and European people managing in Europe, so that they are somehow not under the US regulation. No, and this is a way to prevent from the source, let me say.
And it can become a very big advantage for the cloud. If compliancy is really built into the cloud, it could be an advantage, because it's becoming so complex then to implement it on premise that a lot of companies will choose. Okay, there's an easy solution there. We will choose, and we are sure, because you say we can't control it or check it ourselves. But there are all kind of auditor companies that are issuing certificates to guarantee that that compliance is available. So that's a good thing, I think.
In Italy, we implemented this PSN, which is the National Security Boundary, which is a government-driven secure architecture for public sector companies.
Does it exist in Belgium?
It's driven by Leonardo, which is a company that is also here in Belgium. Okay. So from a technical point of view, you may implement something similar in Belgium, but this was a government decision in Italy, not a Microsoft.
No.
And there is a consortium with not only Microsoft, but also Leonardo and Team, which is the biggest carrier we have in Italy, and Google also part of this game. And we are providing a full footprint to cover general data, high critical data, critical systemic data, with different solutions, where you have confidential computing that play a role in one category of data, where you have hybrid solution with cloud management providing the operational sovereignty, because in that case you operate on-prem, but the cloud is providing you services, to the final one, which is the full on-prem, which is the best sovereign, let me say, option you have, but you are on-prem. But this is a very successful story, very successful one, and we are working also in Belgium to, let me say, try to push for something similar. And the Belgian government seems very interested in doing something, for sure, so the Belgian flavor. But
it will become a danger that Microsoft is pushing the government to implement even more compliance rules.
No, we are not pushing government, but we are providing capabilities. Because if they not aware about what is possible to do, and if you don't provide capabilities to the Belgian data center, there is no sovereignty without residency. Residency is the first step, let me say. Data must be here under your regulation, and then you set up the sovereignty.
But I think there's no way back. I don't know if there's a similar a framework here in Belgium for governance, because we are not a government company. We are a private company.
I hope there will be.
But surely we have all those compliancy frameworks that are implemented and that we have to follow.
Absolutely.
Our customers ask to follow it. It's not always that we have to implement it, but our customers ask to become more and more compliant with certain frameworks. And there's a big push to the cloud, I think, because there we will have those capabilities that are much more complex to implement on-premise.
And there are customers that must do it, and there are customers that are willing to do it even if they don't have, because in any case you are trying to keep your environment as much secure as you can. So if you think about the public sector or the FSI, the financial sector market, or the healthcare, they are looking for these capabilities today, if possible.
I was wondering, Koen, if you make decisions on the infrastructure you work with, do you start thinking a lot about ESG and how you have to report it?
Well, ESG is of course important, but I must admit with what is happening in the world, ESG is maybe becoming a bit
less
lower
high
on the scale. But other implementations you have GDPR. It exists already a long time, and there it's completely implemented, and it we fully support it. But there's a lot of other frameworks that are coming to us that we should implement. I think to DORA, we are not concerned with DORA, but a lot of clients are, and so they ask us, how are you secured? What do you have? How do you comply? So more and more we have to.
In your role in your company, you have a very diverse portfolio of customers.
And every project that we start, we are checking. Besides traditional things as architecture, and so also all the compliance checks. It should be a check in the box before we start a project. And of course we want to be very innovative as well, and it's not always compatible.
How do you find that balance between being innovative on one side and everyday challenge?
Every day a battle. So
okay.
it's not so easy. So we try to do it. We try to implement the necessary stuff, but also to leave a lot of freedom to the people to be able to experiment with innovative things and so.
And do you have a danger for shadow IT in that case, if they can?
Shadow IT, it's a real thing. Shadow IT. I must say, on the one hand, we are communicating a lot about it because we want to prevent shadow IT. So more and more people in the company are aware of the dangers of shadow IT. I think of it's not integrated with identity framework. It can contain.
That's the starting point, no?
Yeah, it can contain confidential information or privacy information. And people that are starting up because it's very easy. They just need a credit card. They can do it with their company credit card. They can start up for less money than a lunch. They can start up a service in the cloud. But all of a sudden they leave the company, and then all that data is in the cloud and we don't know it. So that's really a danger. So there is more awareness, so people know if they want to start up a software application, they have to follow a procedure, and then we integrate it. So, for instance, we want single sign-on infrastructure, and so that's obliged, and more people do it. And we do a lot of monitoring, of course, but it's you can't prevent it completely. So there's always, but otherwise you have to shut off the internet, and that isn't possible. Certainly not in a company like ours that wants to innovate as well, and we want to try out new stuff. But I must admit, all of a sudden we saw bots coming in our team meetings, and then we said, "Oh, what is that? I bought it with my credit card. Well, it's no problem." Yes, it's a problem because it's recording all kind of stuff, and who's managing it? That kind of.
So
stuff,
not only on the side of the customers bringing their bots, but even people inside the company.
People
and
inside the company as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard to prevent. You can shut. But we choose not to shut down,
but to communicate a lot and about cases from the past.
We have a lot of communication, and we talk about it, and
you should generate awareness, and then you should make people responsible for the action. This is also the way Microsoft is doing with us.
Yeah,
we are free, let me say, to do
whatever you want.
Not whatever, but let me say we are more or less free to do many things, but then you know what you can do, what you cannot do, and you get the consequence if you do something. You get advice, of course. No, there are controls rather than blocks.
Yeah, it's the same at Group S. We leave a lot of freedom. we want people to experiment and to look at stuff. But yeah, we control what is being used. There's also we've implemented also policies and so on.
And you send warning.
Yeah. And we have the tools to
Yeah.
check. We have all kinds of tools.
Mm.
But of course, we don't know all the shadow IT tools that are that are being used neither. But
I'm watching the time, and I think I could continue talking to both of you for a very long time. I would like to talk and then try to wrap up a little bit, but talk about the future. Okay, we are living in a very global world. Hopefully this stays the same, but of course we are uncertain times for the moment. What would you think data centers would go to in the future? How do you see their role evolve or stay the same? What is the biggest challenge you see for data centers?
I will start.
Go ahead.
Microsoft made a huge change in our data center strategy 10 years ago, more or less, where we decided to build many more regions, so many more groups of data center, we call regions, in more countries. In the past, we were focusing on few huge implementation, globally serving the world, no? Because being global means that I can put data center in one place and then serve all over the world. But we know that resiliency, sovereignty, but not only latency. Because if you think about customers that now are using the cloud in a very mature way compared to 10 years ago, if you think about banks willing to move payment systems to the cloud, so you cannot have data centers in Amsterdam and the bank is in Rome, because the latency would be 25, 30 milliseconds and no payment system will ever work. So there is not only regulation or geopolitical trends that are, let me say, suggesting us to create more regions, but also technical constraints. And that's why we decided to build more and more regions, keeping our mission. So we are trying to give our customer all the options possible. You want to play globally. You are free to deploy your workloads in one region and serve the entire world. You want to play locally. You have 70 regions you can deploy in more than 35 different countries worldwide. And so you can also play locally. We don't want to choose what customers should do, but we want to give as many options as possible to our customer. This is our aim. So if the world is going to be even more global or less global, we would like to be ready to cover both trends.
Both options.
That's at the end of the game. The cloud is the cloud, but it should be somewhere. So the data center is always the, let me say, the place where the data and the application run. And if I may add one topic, we saw the trend where customers were moving from on-prem to the cloud. Now we are seeing also another trend where customers are also moving their on-prem that was in a server room inside their building to innovative and next generation data centers, very similar to the one that we are using, but where they can, let me say, rent their space.
And become bigger if needed.
Yeah, because they can move their workload, their hardware there, and without changing, let me say, the software or anything, but they can get, from an ESG point of view, they can get more efficiency, they can get more innovative way of cooling, so water usage, energy efficiency, just by moving. And also from a resiliency point of view, they should leverage very important connectivity footprint that this kind of data center may provide. And this is what we see. When we say hybrid, I see a hybrid where the cloud is sitting on a hyperscaler data center and the on-prem is sitting on a enterprise market data center. I don't see in the future more old-style server rooms, not efficient, let me say, or the the server under the desk, as we were used to have years ago.
What about you?
I completely agree, because today we still have a part of our data centers on premise in our own data center rooms, and it gives us a lot of stress. So and everything is becoming more and more severe. We certainly have the strategy. If we have to move that, we won't upgrade our own data center. It will become an external data center. We have already a part of our data center that is in the data center rooms of LCL. So we see the advantages over there, and we don't have any value adds if we do it ourselves. We have to look at specialized companies because they have the economies of scale. We can't reach those economies of scale, and they have also the expertise, and so we can't have it internally. The vendor management, it's much more easier for it, and so that's
to manage.
And we are also working with LCL, not only, but because there is another option, because you can have very, very low latency between your on-prem and your cloud, because these two facilities
you have the
are sitting sometimes very close each other. So you can get 1, 2, 3 milliseconds latency between your on-prem and your cloud, which you will never get if you are sitting in your building to the cloud. So I really believe, and for Microsoft this is going to be a kind of sales play in the future, that this kind of partnership between the hyperscaler and a colo provider will cover 100% of the customer need, whether they want to be on-prem, on cloud, or hybrid. You cover the full chain. This is the future for me.
Okay, very clear.
And we will certainly expand our cloud applications as well, because first of all, sometimes you don't have the choice. If you want to get in the fast train, it goes a lot faster if you're really in the cloud. There you have every month the new functionalities. If you should handle that on premise, it's not doable, and it can integrate very well with your local infrastructure as well.
Before we close, I have a question I ask to all of my guests. What do you think is the one belief about data centers? Obviously, that's what we're talking about, that we should and need to challenge more often. In one sentence, what would you say?
I try to, let me say, force this concept that data center use a lot of energy, but it's not really true.
Okay.
Because if all the companies would move the servers that today are running into their own server rooms to a modern data centers, the total amount of energy we would use as a country would be less.
Okay.
It's a very good one. I would take something from the practical side. Think first and then execute. So plan everything. Think about the architecture, and so. And I think a lot of a lot of companies are forgetting that. So they are executing very fast, and then they complain.
Think later.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Very interesting to have this conversation with both of you, Tiziano and Koen. Thanks you for
it was a pleasure to being here
in the couch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into Data Center Dialogues. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. And you can also access all our resources and episodes at Data Center University. Empowering data center knowledge. Stay curious, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.